This is Midwest Cover Crop Chronicles, where we explore the experiences of Midwestern farmers who are transforming their fields through cover cropping. Each episode, we'll hear from farmers who are cultivating success, enriching their soil, and fostering sustainability. Join us as we uncover the victories they've celebrated, challenges they've faced, and lessons they've learned along the way. Today, we are joining Jim O'Connell, who farms near Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
We're a family farm, grain and cattle. And we have a 30-head stock cow herd. My dad was very innovative, and so I guess I've kind of carried on what he's doing in the aspect of cover crops. We started maybe 13, 14 years ago, did a few fields, decided that that might be a way to go, and we've increased, and today we plant all of our acres to cover crops, and I think it's a good thing.
What's really motivated you to make that decision to adopt?
Well, the biggest factor was we were taking our oldest son back to school after Christmas break and driving west on Highway 30. There was snow, and then in the ditches, they were just covered black with soil. And I just kept thinking and talking to the family, that's something's got to be done. We're losing that topsoil, and that's not coming back. When we got back, I started thinking a little bit more and investigating more with the cover crops, and it's a huge component of erosion. We started planting more acres then, and at that point, we kind of ramped it up a little bit, started getting everything into cover crops to help prevent erosion. It's very interesting to watch it now after doing it for 13, 14 years. Our ditches are clean in the winter. Neighbors aren't, but ours are. And so that, to me, tells me that we're doing something good.
What practices did you start out with using as far as getting those cover crops established and the timing and even what species you were using?
We started off with, I went and borrowed the neighbor's 20-foot John Deere drill, and we started off with just cereal rye. And the FSA had a program to help share costs for seed. That was the first 3 years. Then we went to a double species cover crop. So we went with cereal rye and winter wheat.
How has your seeding and use of cover crops evolved over time? You started out, 14 years ago, and it was probably a pretty big learning curve, I imagine, right?
Yeah,
and then now you're doing something completely different. But what was the progression that gets you to the point that we're at now?
Well, we started off with the drill, and then I was planting cover crop in the middle of the night with that 20-foot drill. I couldn't get enough acres done, so neighbor and I went in on a planter, and we went to a 40-foot planter, 16-row, 31 interplants. We were able to cover the ground a lot faster. Another issue we were worried about is the alleliopathy from the cereal rye for the corn, when we planted corn. As we transformed, I guess, I started, I think as maybe by chance, I planted a field green. And instead of spraying and waiting for 8 to 12 days, we just went in, planted, and we let it germinate. Once it germinates, we spray. And now all the acres of corn, we plant green, and we plant green with the beans too.
Were you no-tilling before you started cover crops, or did you kind of adopt both at the same time?
No, we were no-tilling. We were basically doing what we were before we started cover crops, and then we went into the cover crop. And then, of course, those first few years, the cover crop, it gets up so high, and then it's like, oh my God, there's green stuff growing out there. We got to plant, kill it. So, of course, went out and sprayed it, and it's March. And then it's like, that didn't die. It's too cold. Let's spray it again. So now you're out there 2-3 times spraying. And it's like, God, I didn't like that. And then it's a timing. We have our own sprayer, but I have it with the neighbor that we have the planter with. And our operations work really well. When I need it, he doesn't and stuff. So instead of trying to worry about spraying, because, I know co-ops, they got how many thousands of acres to go over. They're spraying my neighbors because it's time to spray it. And it's this tall. And I'm like, he's not getting any benefit out of it. And I've even told him, I'll come and spray it. It's bothering me that much. Let it grow. Let it grow. And people are like, we got to plant into a clean field. It is clean. It is clean. It's just, and it's keeping any weeds from coming up anyway. It's suppressing all of that. That's a different way of thinking. Then year 4 or 5, I think, is when I actually did one field of green. I was nervous about it. And of course, I did one back here where people can't see. It ended up, damn, it worked really well. So I'm like, well, why don't I just keep doing it? It's really easy, and it works good for us. So every year's different, though. You get ready to plant, get it planted, and you only have to wait 2 or 3 days. If it's warm enough, that seed will germinate, and you can spray it. Then it rains, and then you're like, oh, crap. Now I got another week before I spray. That cover crop's going to be 20-some inches tall, and I had a couple of those this year. And of course the neighbors driving by, checking it, making sure it's still there, I guess. We were able to get out there eventually and got it killed on, and we had the best yields we've had ever. So I don't think that had didn't have a problem with that. So, and we didn't have to use many chemicals. The more we let it grow, the less chemicals we have to use.
And so today we're standing in front of your combine with the harvest seeder on it. So
Right.
you're obviously now seeding at the time of both corn and soybean harvest, right?
Correct, yes.
Can you tell us your I'll call it your experience with that and some of the things that you've had to adjust to, but maybe some of the opportunities that are now here because of that?
Adjusting was getting done combining a field and then not having to get in the tractor and planter and go plant it. It's already planted. That was kind of an odd thing for the first few fields that we did. The other thing is, this is all new. We haven't had any rain. I don't know how well we're going to work. I think it's a really good thing, especially for me. It's a time saver. It saves money, fuel, wear and tear on the equipment. I think it's going to catch on, and it's a big benefit.
How do you feel things went this year compared to last year? Well, both in weather and you've had the change now using the harvest seeder.
Efficiency is way higher. I'm getting a lot more sleep. I feel better. And, we're almost done with harvest, and we're almost done putting cover crop on all at the same time. So it's a win-win for that. I feel good about it. And now that we've got some rain, I'm excited now to see stuff start coming up.
How do you feel your cover crops have helped you weather some of the droughts that we've had over the last couple years, or even earlier this year, right? We had a lot of rain in May and June. How have cover crops helped you or played a role with your production?
It helps in dry and in wet. When we get large rains, the infiltration of the cover crop helps through the soil and protects everything, keeps everything where it's supposed to be. And you can go down and check waterways, and the water's clean that's coming on top of the ground. And then we've had tiles checked, and our nitrates are low. So it's helping in that regard. When we have dry weather, that cover crop covers that ground. So any moisture that we do have, it helps keep it in the soil. So we're not losing it or with evaporation. And we've seen that last year was a pretty good test of that. And part of it is because we do plant green, so we do have a good cover out there. When we terminate it, when it goes down, we've got a nice mat, in a sense, that helps hold soil and hold the moisture in. And then when we do get large rain events, it helps hold everything there. And it helps, our ground is more porous now since we've been planting cover crops. One example is when we do get heavy rains, you drive by my fields, there's no ponding. You drive by neighbors' fields, and there's water standing on the ground. I mean, you can see water standing. So I'm attributing that to the cover crop.
How is the use of cover crops, or what noticeable aspects of cover crops have helped maybe with, I'll call it yield variability across the field, but also then from year to year?
The one thing we've noticed on our farms is the lighter soils on top of the hills and your better soils that are down. As you go up and over, normally your yield monitor starts dropping, you get back down, yield monitor goes back up. We've narrowed that gap now as we go over the hills. So those soils, we're building those soils. The lesser productive soils, we're building those, and then we're making the better soils better, I guess, if that's a right wording. But it's balancing everything. And I think those bigger hills too, we get good rains, it's holding everything right there. We don't have any washouts. We don't have, any of that kind of stuff. Everything's where it's supposed to be, including your fertilizer.
Let's transition here a little bit, and let's talk just a little bit about some of the lessons that you've learned, through this journey.
When I've talked to other people about it, the first thing I ask some of the guys that are questioning should they do it or not, I said, well, I ask them, do you have grandkids? And a lot of those older guys say, well, yeah. And of course they love them. You can tell that by how they respond to that. And my question to them is, do you want your grandkids to be able to farm? And without a whole bunch of regulations, because at some point we're going to start being regulated on nitrogen, fertilizers. Cover crops will help that, and help that from, leaching out into the, your water sources. I think they kind of realize when you put a personal perspective on it, and I'm kind of using their grandkids to make it an important thing to them, that it opens up some eyes, and then maybe some other people will try it and then do more instead of just a field here or there. It's a change of thinking. It takes time, but the benefits so outweigh the time. I've lowered my herbicide costs. My yields have increased. My soil fertility has increased with less fertilizers. So it's a win-win. It's a win for the environment.
What are some of the things that may help someone that's, in that adoption phase and may not be seeing that quick success? What are some of the things that you've done or you've seen that maybe can help them pick this up and stay with it a little bit longer?
I think it's talking to people that are doing cover crops and getting more knowledge on it. I think sometimes where people, they just don't want to do it is because they just don't have enough knowledge on what's going on and the benefits that they're going to get out of it. A lot of these guys, they've done a certain thing for so long, and then probably their dads did it, and you fall in a routine. If you can try to break that routine, then you could try something different.
Okay, so why do you think that, some farmers, they'll start adopting and then they'll run into some tough times, they'll have maybe a failure. And other times you'll find farmers that can really pick up and they'll adopt it and they'll get that quick success and then they'll keep growing with it. Are there keys that you see in what makes the difference between those two groups?
I think patience. It is a learning tool and curve. It's just not, it's just a different way of thinking. And I think a lot of guys, that they have their one way of going and now it's planting time. And man, I don't want that on there. Or in the fall, we need to be harvesting. Why would we be planting? That's not right. So it's a change of way of thinking and patience to start getting them to be able to do it. And then once they do it, if it doesn't work out well, have an outlet that they can call people and talk to people and not feel like they did something wrong. That, you got to be, we're learning, I'm still learning, and be able to have a source that they can go to help it. And I think if it's a positive thing, then they'll continue to increase acres.
What advice do you give to those new farmers? Maybe it's someone your age, maybe it's someone that's the next generation who's considering this. And so what advice do you give them as they kind of make the decisions to adopt?
I think that if they actually see the results of things and see the results of what cover crops can do, they'll start opening their eyes. And I brought people have come to the farm here, and I'm not going to, push it down people's throats, but if they want to come and look and see, I think that's a beneficial thing to see how it is working, because it is working. I'm going on 14 years of doing it, and I'm not getting any subsidy from the FSA doing this. I know a lot of guys, I've heard guys saying that, well, they're going to throw money in to have you do it, and then guys are talking already. I heard them talking, well, after 3 years, I'm out. The contract's done. I don't have to do it.
Looking forward, what do you envision, your next step into the cover crop journey?
I'm willing to try anything. With the planter, we have precision on our planter, and so planting the cover crop, the cereal rye and winter wheat worked well, but you start getting those finer seeded grains, and I don't know if it would work, if you have to change, stuff on the planter. Now, my new adventure with the harvest seeder, you can mix it and put it in there, And so that might be my next, I might do a trial on that next year of adding some, radishes or cannoli or something different just to see what it would do. But I have more options available, I believe, now with the harvest cedar.
How do you measure the impact of cover crops on your farm?
Huge. I mean, this has changed our operation, I believe. We've cut costs in a lot of different areas with herbicides, fertilizers, the erosion, and then, in the spring, everything around here is green. I mean, it's life. You feel good. We get big rains. You can go down to any of our waterways. It's clean water running out. So we're helping the city of Cedar Rapids, being in the Cedar River watershed. The impact has been phenomenal for us. We're going to keep doing this and try to keep getting other people to try to jump on board and try some.
What resources or tools have really been instrumental in helping you make decisions along the way?
Our FSA office, or the NRCS office, and they've got good people out there that we talk. Iowa State, they're a good source to go to. I mean, you can jump on any website, and I'm not a computer guy. And then our Lynn Co-op has been instrumental. Evan Brom, he's been with Iowa Soybean Association. He's been very instrumental, holding meetings to get more people involved in it. And then he invites me to come along so I can talk to people. So you have, I guess, experience or people that have done this, to have somebody there that they can talk to for these new guys that are apprehensive of trying something new. Because it is a big change. When you haven't done anything, now you're putting a living crop out there when your stuff needs to be dying, because we're going to plant. So it's a different way of thinking.
What trends have you most excited when you think about cover crops and going into the future?
Our environment. I've gotten a little bit more involved with the Cedar River watershed. We put a wetland in and a bioreactor here the last few years to help clean up water that's going in, because where all of our creeks drain into the Cedar River is right above all the wells that Cedar Rapids draws from for drinking water. We're trying to do our part to help clean that up, and plus we want clean water too. The other thing is we're putting fertilizers on the fields. Those fertilizers are expensive. Why don't we want them to stay there? Cover crops help maintain the integrity of that soil and keeps our fertilizers where they need to be. And I think that's a huge benefit also. And the more people can actually see it and realize that, I think the benefits are going to start soaring.
Jim, thank you for sharing your cover crop story with me today.
I appreciate it.
What key takeaway did you hear from Jim? I heard Jim say it takes a mindset change, and that success comes from making changes over time. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Midwest Cover Crop Chronicles. We hope you found inspiration in Jim's experiences. Remember, each cover crop acre sown is a step toward healthier soils and a more resilient future. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it.